Welcome to ELF Erosion Center 4 at Mitchell Elementary. Welcome, welcome. Center 4 is called Slipping Soil, and we are going to experiment with various landscape designs to limit or control erosion. This is going to be a very messy center, definitely best done out in the hallway at least, if not outside on a nice day. Hopefully it could be an outside center. The supplies that you need for the center are going to be in the bin and in a bucket. It's labeled and Center 4 sand. Not to be confused with the dry sand, which is in the square. This needs to be kept dry. The sand in the bucket is okay to get wet. Okay? Now at the beginning of the center, well, I guess I'll show you what we have first and then we'll talk about how to run the center. So this bin is full of things. Here's some tablecloths to put on the floor if you're out in the hall. And then there are some tools for kids to dig around in the sand with. We've got some fake eucalyptus trees. We got some netting, fabric, twigs, rocks, sponges, and watering cans. So I'll explain what you're going to use all that for in just a couple minutes here. So again, we're going to start with how you set up this center. Let's see. You'll probably first want to cover some books and examples of erosion. Again, all this stuff has been covered in the introduction. You could rewatch that video to kind of learn about what erosion is and what causes it. These books will also give you a quick lowdown on erosion. Then in the ELF closet, there's going to be a big box that's going to have the ELF erosion table, and you're going to have to set that up so it has a slant. And you're going to put sand in it from the sand bucket. It's okay if it's wet because you're just going to get it wetter. So you're going to smooth out probably an inch or two of sand in the sand table and make sure that the hose at the bottom of the sand table drains into the bucket. And so you have to imagine we have this thing here. Sorry, it's spring break, so we didn't have time to get the sand table. But anyways, there'll be an erosion table here, sand in it. So you're going to first have a steep slope with no protection on it. So you're going to tell the children that that slope represents a bare hillside on which all the trees and maybe landscape has been taken away, all the trees and weeds and all that stuff. So you're going to have them take a watering can, or you can demonstrate, and pour water and see what happens when the water goes down a plain slope. So you'll first do that. So you'll talk about all the forms of erosion that the water is causing and what would happen if there was maybe trees. It's all just going to be caused by water runoff in this unit. So then you're going to show them all these materials that they have to work with, and you're going to try to ask them to prevent erosion. So what are they going to find works the best? Is the net going to be as good as the fabric? Will rocks make a good dam to keep the sand in place? There we have some sponges that could represent maybe sandbags, and maybe they'll have to be buried halfway to stick in there. But there's lots of different things the kids can experiment with to build up. So after you have the slope go with nothing on it, then you'll build up the sand again, and then you'll have the children go ahead and build up something with all the supplies we have here. So we're going to ask them, how can the soil be held in place? What could be added to absorb water, then let it run off into the stream? And what might divert the water flow? So once they get it all set up, again, we have a couple watering cans in here. You can fill them up with water and let the kids sprinkle water on the sand table to see how the erosion is changed by the man-made help that we've put in place. Let's see here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let them all try it. If there's enough dry sand, you could take some dry sand and sprinkle it on the top and see what happens there. You'd have to smooth that out with a trowel and then also pour, but the water will run off the dry sand a little bit differently than it does with the wet sand. In the wet sand, it'll just create a water runoff channel, but on the dry sand, it might spread it out more. So if you have time, you can run it that way too, but we are pretty low on our dry sand because it's hard to keep it dry with all these centers going. Again, though, when you're done with the center, clean up on this center is going to be essential. Please put our things back in the Ziplocs if they're in Ziplocs. The wet sand can go back in the wet sand bucket, and it's okay if that stays wet. Make sure our books stay dry in our bins, so we'll make sure to use paper towels from our teachers. So that covers pretty much the center, but we have a few reminders in each center. Make sure you clean up. Make sure you inform us if we need, if we're low on supplies or need some supplies. We do have an extra supply bin for this center. There will be a couple extra sponges in there. And then you could check out the introduction video, like I said at the beginning of this, because it has all kinds of information on what causes erosion and how humans help cause erosion. And lastly, this is not for the center, but it's important to know the difference, like we said about the dry sand. Stir this every time you walk into the ELF closet if you're there to help for ELF one day, or if you're there to help on something else for a school. We need this sand to be dry for center too. So just give it a stir and make sure you don't put your wet sand in with the dry sand because we're trying to keep that dry. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please email us at mitchellelf@gmail.com. Thank you.